Greetings, race community. Brent coming in live Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Central Time with an extra special guest. This month is Mentorship Month, and we've been talking over the last year to a lot of our guests about who the mentors were that helped shape their career. And if you've heard me tell the ever true story, you have heard me say something along the lines of, I had a couple of mentors from the Brown Football Association who took me under their wing and really helped me navigate my career path as a first-generation college student. And I am really feeling blessed to be joined by one of those two mentors today, Mike Glascott, class of '93, Brown University. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Brent. It's great to see you. Great to connect, and it's great to be able to share some of our experience with your crowd.
Yeah, we gave Mike very little context for why we were inviting him to the podcast, and the number one reason is mostly just to say thanks, Mike, and also to help shine a light on a little bit of the entrepreneurial journey that I've gone through at Evertrue, but also as we are in the middle of Mentorship Month, I think the thing that struck me is how much of an impact seemingly very small conversations or small moments can have that then do sort of alter the trajectory of careers and lives. And I think about getting to know you and John Skinner as being one of those moments for me. And so we'll share a little bit of the background. But what I do like to know from all of our guests, given our audience is primarily, folks in the higher education fundraising world, is just to know a little bit about your college journey. So take me back to Mike Glascott, junior year of high school, Loyola Academy. Who is that guy? And ultimately, what led you to Brown University?
Great memory at Loyola. Who's that guy? He's got bad hair. He's got the mullet going.
But the mullets are back.
Listen, I'm thinking about it. I may bring it back. Not sure how to fit in the financial services industry, but I'm a good student. I'm an athlete. And my college junior, sitting there junior year, looking as a Midwestern Chicago kid. Loyola Academy is just outside the city of Chicago, and I live in the city proper. The East Coast is this. I don't know if it's exotic, but it's what you think of when you think of you think of the college experience. That, and here you and I are Midwestern folks guys, so. That the Big Ten and the Notre Dame of the world. And so, academically oriented, looking for the best opportunity. At the same time, I played football, but, it was my main sport, and, had the opportunity to continue to play, out East, and Brown was one of those schools, and was just a great fit. When I think back and, kind of at the decision at the time, I was looking at bigger cities, looking at, out in the country as well. And it really was, a great experience. So it was just that combination of the great educational opportunity and the opportunity to continue to play sports.
And if you didn't go to Brown, what was your number two? Where else might you have gone?
Oh man! Are we talking sports wise, or are we talking about if I just scratch the whole thing? I'll give you the outline. So I was looking at other Dartmouth and Columbia, where Middlebury was on that list. But I'd say the outlier. If I want to say, what would have been a great experience, but a whole different thing is, I applied to Boulder, so I might still be out skiing in Boulder, Colorado, had I gone that route. But
Got it.
But yeah, it
Okay.
was
Didn't know
pretty
that.
easy decision to come east.
So Loyola Academy, great school, great preparation, competitive athletics. How would you describe the early, transition to Brown? Was it obviously being a part of the football team, helps, right? Because you've got a whole bunch of friends before classes even start. But I don't know, culture shock or pretty smooth sailing. I mean, what was the
it was. It's all those things that you said. I mean, you do have this. You get there early. You've got a group that you're playing with, and getting to know right away. But that group is, you've all got that kind of one interest and are kind of, they're not all the same people, but nonetheless, kind of in a similar circle. And so there really was a bit of culture shock. Even though, like I said, I'm in a big city. It's not like I'm sure love to hear and have heard about your experience. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was. I would say there was both culture shock and just things you didn't things you didn't know, things you weren't accustomed to. I didn't know what a prep school was, for instance. Not that Loyola, that Loyola Academy was some out of the way school, but so there's just these things that just it was kind of a world that I didn't know or wasn't accustomed to. There's a bit of I think with any college kid, but especially going to a place like Brown, you're looking around at some really talented and sharp classmates, and so there's a little bit intimidated, I think, academically. It took me at least a little while to kind of get my feet under me to realize this is there's some outliers. There's some true crazy geniuses for sure, but to kind of really jump in. So there was a bit of an adjustment period.
And so my understanding is pretty dominant football program when you were there, if I'm not mistaken, or I don't know. What was the
Let's not go
perseverance. What were the lessons learned? Yeah.
The lessons learned were that after all these years, unless somebody really knows the program, you could just say you played college football and nobody really, oh really? How was the team? You don't usually go that far. It was a tough period for Brown football, and an offensive powerhouse, but we would, and I was a defensive player, by the way. But we'd give up 10, 20 more points than we would score. So not a great record. I mean, what are the lessons? I mean, you hear all the time about the friendships that you came out of that, and he did play through some pretty tough circumstances over those 4 years. I mean, it's perseverance, it's attitude. Even kind of looking back. I mean, I think that's a big piece of it. Kind of what attitude did you bring to, and there was both kind of as a team and personally some tough days in the program, and so I think that's when I look back at it, I said, what was the lesson learned? There's friendships gained, and lessons learned were just you control your attitude. I'd say it was always the most enthusiastic on a rainy Providence Wednesday afternoon in November, but I think I did my part.
No, it's fine. I mean, I remember getting recruited, and it was the fall of 1999 for me, and I was watching some ESPN show, but Chris Berman came on to basically announce Brown winning, their first Ivy League title since 1976. And this was like, the minute I was getting ready to, go out on my recruiting trip. And so it was like, all right, that pretty much sealed the deal. Chris Berman's talking about it. Like, they're winning championships. This will be easy. And when I got out there, like, we were a very good team. And we were always in every game, competitive except for one. And however, my junior year, we ended up losing the first 8 games of the season. And I still think we were the best team in the league, but we lost, I don't know, 4 games by a combined 11 points or something like that. And just everything that could go wrong did. But when we won the game to break that streak against Dartmouth and we finished the year 2-8, I mean, that was for sure the most elation and joy that we ever had in a locker room. Like, you know, the good teams and like the games we were supposed to win and all of that, you know, that memory of seeing how happy Coach Estes was jumping around the locker room with one victory on the year was pretty remarkable. And so we met by way of some of the mentorship activities that we'll talk more about. I don't know if that existed as formally when you were in school or if it was more informal, but you know, whether the answer is like yes or no, did you feel like you had access and support within the alumni community, or was it maybe less mature at that point? And we're talking basically early 90s. Mike graduated 11 years before I did. So just to set a little bit of context.
Yeah. I mean, it was not formal. There was not the, I mean, there may have been some, you know, some path to kind of, to go through, but it was not, you know, not kind of widely publicized. You know, and so it was just, you know, who did you meet? You know, some of it was through athletics. You know, you would meet some former players that would, and some of the players that I was, you know, that I was with on the team, you know, had some alumni relationships. But yeah, that was really, you know, if I kind of think back to, you know, where, you know, kind of first started to make those connections beyond, you know, the people that I was going to go to school with, you know, it's probably as I was out, you know, going out and looking for a job. You know, I mean, that's, you know, I guess is where most folks start.
Right.
And it was just trying to, you know, I was interested in financial services. And I was, you know, trying to network through, you know, who I could find in that there, and I think I got a, you know, alumni list, for instance, and tried to, you know, that is as archaic as that may sound, and tried to use that to make some connections. But you know, and over time, you know, I found folks that were, you know, that were Brown alum, and got to know them. But yeah, I think it was not a formal, kind of a formalized process.
And I don't actually know right out of school what your path was. Did you go right back to Chicago after?
I did. Brown? I did it. You know, so my wife and my wife is from Boston area and went to school in Providence as well. So we met in college. And we didn't have jobs, you know, coming straight out of school. So yeah, the deal is she went back to the Boston area where she's from. I went back to Chicago, and we were going to move to whichever city to whoever got a job first. And I don't know that I got a job first, but she just got sick of living at home. So I'm coming to Chicago. So I've, you know, been to Chicago ever since. So came back. And you know, I went into a financial sales, you know, a broker, you know, was my first at a wirehouse. What's now, I guess, they've all been purchased, but it was Prubation at the time. And so that's where I started. You know, started out as a retail broker, and then did that for a number of years back to school, and then back into financial services.
And when did you I know when I graduated from college, I did not know what MBA was, right? Kind of like you said, you get there and you don't know what boarding schools, prep schools are, PG years, like never heard of any of this stuff. Sure, I made it through all 4 years without knowing what an MBA was. When did that surface on your radar? And, you know, I know that was
that's funny. It's funny that you say that, because you know, again, there's all the, you know, a college preparatory, you know, Jesuit school outside of Chicago, and they prepared you well. But yeah, there was this, you know, that I wasn't first generation college student, but you know, it wasn't kind of that formal financial services world is just not something that I was super familiar with. And so you are, and that's kind of a part of this conversation is mentorship is you are just kind of trying to figure it out. I just had this broad sense that I wanted to do, finance, and you're watching, bad 80s movies and I'm going to do that. I don't think I ever slicked my hair back. I had cut the hair by then, but I never did slick it back. I may have had some suspenders. I may have had suspenders. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure you had cufflinks, but like, was the slicked back mullet ever a thing, or is that?
Gosh, I hope not. But maybe we may have just innovated here.
I'm gonna Google slick back mullet while you're telling me the next part of the story.
And listen, if that domain name's not taken, please, we're going all in on it.
Everyone listening should Google slick back mullet as we advance this part of the conversation, because there's some good stuff.
See if we can get it trending. I'm not even sure what that means. But yes, I mean, the MBA came in. It's funny you said it wasn't brown. I mean, there were folks that were. I was enjoying my career, but it was purely a broker role at the time. It really is purely a sales role. I enjoyed the people side of it and building. It was very real. We were building a business with clients, and you had to go out and get those clients. But there wasn't, you weren't kind of getting, too much into the asset management side of things. That wasn't really what, it wasn't very kind of actively engaging that way. So, I mean, there was a part of me that was looking for something else. If I think about it, and friends were starting to go, I mean, there was this kind of, as you talk to people, what are they doing and where are they going? But this whole kind of path of going, business school and then looking at financial services or consulting, and there's just this kind of path of, and I know yours clearly led to entrepreneurship. It was just not one that was clear to me. But I think it was frankly some of the friends from Brown that were starting to make that choice and talking to them about what that is. I remember actually running into one of them. My family has a bar here in Chicago as an aside, and was there and ran into a friend, Mason, who was at Northwestern. So they had come down to Northwestern Business School, and he had come down with a group of Northwestern. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And he had been actually an entrepreneur at school. I was like, "Oh, I'm doing business school. I want to change," and we started talking about it, and that it just kind of those types of things were, and asking him what his plans were. Now we're doing this over a bar or on a bar stool, but and just was kind of starting to understand what opportunities that would open up for me and where you could go with it. And then part of me was like, well, if Mason can do it, I can do it. It was, come on. So, it was things like that really led me to really kind of jump into it.
And then ultimately, that was a bit of staying within the financial services world, but that was a pivot into the investment banking space, which obviously was, you were coming out of school, or I think in business school, sort of in the midst of the .com sort of boom and bust. And I'm sure there were some, memories around that. Although I know, University of Chicago, where you went, is more kind of classic, at that time, at least, was more classically, finance and economics and so, getting thrown into investment banking can be pretty humbling, speaking from experience. Right. I don't know, any early memories from that time, and then our paths will cross real soon in this story.
Real soon. It was. I mean, it was. As I said, I enjoyed my career, I enjoyed the people side of it. But what I wanted to do was really, joking aside about the movies, I wanted to see how it works. And to your point, there's no place like, when I say it, what it is this, the financing, the buying and selling, the structuring of business, companies. I mean, if you kind of think of it in a kind of a simple sense, that's what investment banking really is. And so it's the finance side, clearly, of business. And so That's what led me to the University of Chicago. Northwestern's a great place, in the sense that they're all wonderfully hard to get accepted into, but that was what I wanted to do. Chicago is a great place, and they think about strategy and those things, and to learn about those things. But ultimately, it is it's to some extent a trade school for finance. You're really you're really getting into it. Love that. Enjoyed it. Frankly, the business school experience. Enough where I even thought for a second about continuing and doing more schooling. But you're thrown into investment banking. I looked at some other places, other fields, if you will, consulting, strategy, that kind of thing. But really, it's pretty clear that that's what I wanted to do, and it was humbling. I was, like, as I said, my role beforehand was not, I didn't know any investment bankers. So I didn't really know, before. I knew some now, some of our classmates that have gone off into it, but I hadn't seen that as a career. I hadn't done it, right? So we'll talk about when our paths crossed, but, I coming in as a post-MBA associate, you've got analysts that have been doing it. And, there's just, it was humbling. They were sitting down with me, showing me how to run the models and those types of things. When on paper, I was supposed to be leading that team, right, that kind of thing. So, you were learning some things. The reputation that you did it. It's a hard work.
What you had going for you is that you were nice, though, and so the analysts would, I'm sure, go out of their way to coach you up. That's a rare trait at times. But I'm a people person. So look, as Mike is settling in at William Blair and Company in the early 2000s, I'm in college. I have no idea what my career paths might be. I think most of grew up in Iowa, first generation college student. I decided to study Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian at Brown, which nobody's looking for in entry level roles.
It made you interesting. It made you interesting.
I'm a people person. But there was a night in, I want to say, February of 2003, which was my junior spring, kind of winter of my junior year. And at that time, the Brown Football Association had formalized their mentoring program, and there were a group of guys that were, really working towards creating either, direct mentor matching and relationships, or, supplementing that with some informal meetups. And I remember we went up to a room above the basketball in the gym called the Pizzatola, and we got together, and there were, a bunch of players, teammates of mine, and a bunch of alumni, and we all, put on our ill-fitting suits and, probably tied our ties incorrectly. And we sort of, started to meet people and, just try to understand what people did. And I mean, even hearing things like finance, I didn't know what that meant. Like, I had no idea. I mean, I probably knew what real estate was because it's something more tangible and relatable, but all of these career paths were pretty foreign to me. And I remember meeting a guy named John Skinner, and for whatever reason, John said something along the lines of, "Have you ever considered investment banking?" And I think my response was, "I don't know what that is, but I'd love to learn more." And ended up setting up, a couple of follow-up calls with him. And, there are just some basic level things you need to know to even attempt to fake your way through an investment banking interview. And John basically gave me the list of all the questions that one would be asked in an investment banking interview. And now there's a million websites and resources that just tell you all of this stuff. But he pretty much walked me through, this is like, what is, how would you value a company? Or, how would you think about, what is a discounted cash flow? Things that I truly had no idea the answers to. And he really coached me through it and basically said, look, you no, you haven't studied finance. But there, is a portion of every class that most of these investment banks want to recruit of people that come from less traditional backgrounds, where it's not all just people that, graduated from the University of Chicago or went to Notre Dame's, finance undergrad program. And so, once in a while, somebody that speaks Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian can sneak through. And so John really, coached me up. He was at a bank called Adams Harkness at the time in Boston. And as my senior fall approached, I started really going to all the info sessions in both really the investment banking space, but also the consulting space as well. And in doing that, went through the traditional campus recruiting, and all the what are known as bulge bracket banks from Wall Street at the time recruited on campus. And so I went through the sort of official process, and for example, my first time ever in New York City, Mike, I don't know if I've told you this, but it was for my interview at Lehman Brothers in Times Square. So imagine me with that
just
same,
all the way from Iowa, the ill-fitting suit. I see you looking around, looking up at all the big lights.
Oh yeah.
like you just landed from Iowa. I know you've been on the East Coast for 4 years already, but I prefer to think of you having come straight from Iowa.
No, you're right. I effectively was, and I probably bought watches and sunglasses from all the nice people that were offering.
I hope you kept that really
street.
Watch. Yeah, I hope you kept that Rolex. That's good that you it's real.
And so I just remember literally first time in Times Square, on top of trying to get my mind right for an interview that that obviously I was really nervous about. But I went through that experience. And in concert with that, John had said, look, you should go and pursue those New York opportunities, but you also should meet Mike Glascott at William Blair and Company. And I had never heard of William Blair and Company, and I know that he connected us over the phone, and I'm sure that I went through the remote interview, which then led to coming in person for the super day or whatever the format was at that time. But I do remember, first of all, the fact that I was being flown out to, I think I had to take a day off of practice or something and fly out to Chicago because I wasn't going to be able to do it on Saturdays because we had games.
That's right.
The thought that a company would fly me to an interview was mind-boggling at the time. And actually, it's still pretty mind-boggling, and any companies out there, you shouldn't do it. But it was a big deal, and I remember meeting you, and maybe it was just seeing what you wanted to see. But I love Chicago. I was a huge Cubs fan. Yeah, I grew up in Iowa. It was 4 hours away, but everybody just seemed a little bit nicer, a little bit more down to earth, and it seemed a lot more my pace than buying Rolexes and sunglasses on the street before I walked into work at Lehman Brothers every day. And so for whatever reason, I think you were a big part of it, but, there were not a lot of people at Brown that year turning down offers from Lehman Brothers to go to William Blair in Chicago. But that was, it was reflective of just kind of feeling comfortable and kind of trusting in you and John, and it was just it was an amazing decision that was a little bit contrarian. I mean, Blair is a great firm, but just did not have the reputation, certainly. And I remember getting there and showing up on my first day of work, knowing no one, right? Having no friends from Brown that I was aware of that were in Chicago. And I went to the security desk to get my name badge at William Blair and Company. And there was another guy getting his name badge at the same time named Ahad Khan. And I basically remember looking at him being like, do you want to be my best friend? Because I don't know anyone. And we've become best friends essentially from the security desk at William Blair and Company. And it was just this amazing period of, the blind leading the blind in the analyst program, and some of those ridiculously humbling moments of going through training, especially without any finance background, and just totally, faking it till you make it. really trying to lean on those people person skills for sure. But what is, interesting is it was then that I really got involved. I mean, I basically worked a lot, right? I mean, you guys worked us pretty hard, but outside of work, I threw myself into the Brown Club of Chicago. In fact, we would host a couple of game watches at Glascott's in Chicago. So anybody listening from the Chicagoland area, you know what we're talking about here. But Glascott's is truly an epic, and you don't find a more authentic Irish pub than Glascott's in the United States for sure. But ended up just building more and more relationships by way of the Brown community, and obviously through the William Blair group as well. And that led to my second job at Madison Dearborn Partners, and then I went to business school at Harvard, and that's where I had the idea for Evertrue. And I'm not going to go into all of that, but I do think what is really interesting is that, and you might not even know all of this, like one night in February, John Skinner basically gives me a little bit of extra attention and offers to be an informal mentor, connects me to you, you become an informal mentor. That leads to my first opportunity professionally in Chicago at William Blair and Company. Following that, I've now got a relationship with John. The following year, John says, "Hey, who are some of the guys on the team that are, they're working hard, doing good, doing well in school, and might be intern candidates for me?" And I said, "Oh, you should meet Craig Young." And so my friend Craig Young then goes and interns for John, and now he runs a real estate private equity fund, and got his MBA at Harvard, and worked at Deutsche Bank right out of school. And you can trace it back to to getting that opportunity to intern at Adams Harkness that led to those other things. And then Carson Brennan, who was 2 years younger than me, and a good friend, I was also then became a bit of an informal mentor to him. And then he ultimately literally took over my desk at Madison Dearborn as I was going off to business school. I basically gave him a high five. He sat down at my desk, took over my portfolio companies, and he's now president of a division of a company called Duravant, which is actually run by a Brown alum, Mike Katchmer, who's actually in the Chicago area. Nick Mellors, who was my freshman year roommate at Brown, ended up transitioning to William Blair and Company a couple of years into his career. He was in the project management, sort of construction management space, but we were able to, coach him up, and he got an opportunity to join William Blair, and then went to Kellogg and is now a partner at McKinsey. Drew James was a few years behind me. I didn't even overlap with him. He's now a managing director at William Blair. Dave Deese ended up working with your brother, by way of, probably meeting on a bar stool at Glascott's. And so my point is, like, hundreds of lives have been changed by John taking me under his wing, by you taking the call, helping me get settled in Chicago. And it just keeps happening. And I think that's where sometimes we think about mentorship as maybe this really formal thing, or this, huge time commitment, or that it's got to be some sort of, we have to talk once a month or once a quarter. And I think in our case, like, you and I have been fortunate to periodically connect, right? And we're connected on social media, and I've seen your family grow. But it's not like you've been my, on my speed dial where, once a month I'm asking you for mentorship. But I think that's where, I get so excited about seeing more and more intersection between alumni relations and the fundraising world with student success, and really being more direct about bridging those relationships, so that what happened for me, which has been life-changing for me, and as I just shared, life-changing for countless other members of the Brown Football Association, in a way that we couldn't even track all of the compounding benefits of this seemingly one, phone call that John took and one phone call that Mike took. And that's where, it's just really remarkable that, everybody says it's not what you know, it's who you know, and it's certainly a combination of both. But I think for all the folks listening as fundraising, professionals, being a little bit more intentional about creating just those connections really has a compounding effect. And it's why, I will always give to Brown. And it's not like Brown, made Mike talk to me, but, it created a community that let this good thing happen and has let it compound for others. And so I don't know if you knew all of that, Mike, even in preparing for this. I just was going through and thinking about, how many guys' lives have been impacted.
I think I knew. I didn't, but just in works, it was fun to hear where those folks have landed up. Besides Drew, I don't know that I had seen or heard where all those names have gone, which is awesome. It's great, it's great, just it is, and I think just to kind of echo some of the things you just said, but all the things we talked about were just it was about opportunity and a little bit of, how do I say it, kind of enhanced engagement, right? It's there's a lot of those conversations that happen. There's a lot of, hey, can you talk to this person and that person? And I don't, and again, as a kid who's, kind of didn't come from that world, being plugged into it, you heard that it's not who you know, it's, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But it really now, as we talk about it, and I've thought about it over my career, it's just that it was this opportunity and this ability for whatever reason, or this opportunity to engage a little bit more, was to be able to see things through this kind of lens of this huge network, find the places that you wanted, you want to explore, which you did, tell me about this investment banking thing. That person, in the case, John Skinner, for some reason, right, whatever it was, the opportunity to do it above the pits, the pit center. Maybe he was, nostalgic that day for his old play days. Maybe he saw something in a stocky fullback that that he identified with, whatever it is. And so, what you do at Evertrue, not to kind of dwell on that too much, but and what your clients do really, to try and create those opportunities. I joked about it, some of my conversations happening at a bar stool at Glascott's, but outside of that, the opportunities to be able to just engage, find out what the opportunities are, see where where some of your, some of the alums are in the world. It is really a powerful thing, and it's not, doesn't have to be this formal, right. Like you said, we have a weekly, catch up at a diner, and you tell me, and I give you advice about the career, your direction of your career. And anyway, I'm going on and on, but it is cool.
No, I periodically, right, get now have guys reaching out to me from the team and asking for these days a Zoom conversation, and every time I get those emails, I think about you, I think about John, and it's like, yeah, of course I'll take the meeting. And I don't know that, it doesn't mean I'm going to give someone a job or that I'm going to be able to, directly, help them, but it's rare that, I can't at least help them get the next conversation, and then that might lead to the next thing and the next thing. And so, I do try to, follow, in the footsteps that, the example that you guys set. I do want to say, as we conclude here on time, you're a dad, and you just had, my understanding is you've kind of been living through the college search here the other thing I was going to say, though, is I meant to say this. You were 11 years out of college when you were my mentor. I'm now 18 years out of college. You seem so old and wise 11 years out of college. I just got to tell you that.
Well, that is that is very
crazy.
Kind of you to say.
How much older I am?
Oh man,
I am so much older than you were when you were, shaping my career. So that's just kind of crazy. Time flies.
It does. Well, now I'm doing the math. I haven't done the math in my head in a while. He was 18. I was holy cow. Yes.
How about that? So tell me just a little bit about, your your recent experience as a, as a family going through the college search process, obviously kind of a ridiculous COVID sort of backdrop, which I'm sure complicated things a bit, but just, what did you learn or what felt different or the same, relative to, you thinking about Brown versus skiing in Boulder, in 89.
Back in the day. It just, and I think this is a good thing. It makes it a little more, maybe more stressful, but it's just a larger, just from the, at least my, looking through my kids' experience, I twins that have gone off, one's at the University of Miami, the other one's at Pomona College out west. It's just such a, just kind of they look at it, as I described mine, what was mine, and, kind of joking about Boulder, not joking, I did apply, but, you just had this universe of where you would think and, where you might go to school. Mine was expanded a bit because of the wonderful opportunity that sports gave me. But, the University of Miami, these, the USC or Pomona College or, Rhodes, I don't want to get, I don't know who our clients and who our clients are, go through these names, but just places that were in these, and then you could go on and on and on. And there's just so much choice and quality choice out there, if that makes sense, for kids that fit them in different ways. And so I think, that's a good thing. I think, at least from my experience with the kids, that, they're thinking more broadly than I hear the 10 schools that, that I can go to in the Midwest, or if I'm lucky enough to make it out east. But I think that's one observation. I think it clearly was, outrageously competitive, and so that, as a parent is and for the kids as well, makes it a bit stressful.
So you have twins, and one went to Pomona, which has 1,800 students, and the other went to the University of Miami, which has 18,000, and they were about as geographically dispersed as possible. So
yes.
Did you expect that?
If you knew the kids, personality wise, you kind of knew, one was small to medium, and the other one was medium to large. But no, from a geography perspective, I did not expect them to be at opposite ends of the country. It was my daughter who's down at Miami, and she is actually the one who led the charge to look at schools in California. So you never know how it's going to play out, but they're both wonderful kids and in great spots and great fits. But yeah, no, I hadn't, had you asked me 4 years before that, I guess, where do you think figure they'd, be closer to one another, but the work, just the way it worked out.
Well, for whatever it's worth, Mike, we do have great relationships at both Pomona College and the University of Miami.
Well, that's good. That's good.
If they ever want to do an informational interview in the advancement shop, you know who to call.
Oh, nice! I love it. I knew this would be helpful. Yeah, I've got to get them in practice. They need to, they're just their first year, but they need to get gainfully employed, get off the Glascott payroll, as they say.
As we talk a lot about, right, fundraising. Good fundraising is it's sales. It's good sales, right? You gotta, find your prospect. You gotta engage the prospect. Find out what matters to them, and sell the mission. So I love it. And well, look, I've taken a good chunk of your Saturday morning here. It is I can't imagine if we're going to get up early on a Saturday. It's really fun to reconnect in this way, Mike. And mostly the whole point, with January being mentorship month, we've asked, as I said, all of our guests who their mentors are, and sometimes people have asked me the same question. And so I'm glad that we've been able to give everybody a small window into our relationship. But I think the main takeaway is just like what mentorship means. It doesn't need to be formal. It doesn't mean, need to be the monthly meetup at the diner. It can be, but just that little nudge, that one introduction, responding to that one email instead of not, can really make a huge impact. And you've done that for me. And I just wanted to say thank you.
No, it's wonderful to catch up. It's awesome, and I'm glad that we had those conversations. It was awesome to work with you, and it really has been cool to see, not to just pump you up, but to see how that played out. To see as you talked about some of those connections, both socially and professionally, to see where you've gone, to see the other Brown folks that had come into Chicago in those early days. It was it really is a cool, it's been fun to watch. So I appreciate the opportunity to chat. It's awesome to catch up. And
if my math serves me, we'll be at least meeting up at your 30th Brown reunion next year. And hopefully
that's what I said. I was just doing the math. That's right. We were just supposed to have a Brown football event at Glascott's, but that got canceled due to COVID. So hopefully we'll kick that off as well here in Chicago. So maybe another opportunity to see some of the folks that are here in the city. But yeah, I look forward to seeing you in person, man.
Love it, Mike. All right, thank you so much. And with that, I'll end today's episode. Frank Grenna with my mentor, Mike Glascott, signing off. Take care, everybody.